Hey guys, Zor here from ZorGameGeek.com. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So, as most of you know, or at least most of you who have played Dungeons and Dragons, especially the 5th edition rules, you generally have 3 actions in combat. And those actions are movement, where you get to move around. You can have your action, so that can be an attack, cast a spell, drink a potion, a little bit more on that in a second, or you can hide, you can help a player, you can dash, basically a double move, all these different actions, and those are listed in the player's handbook chapter on combat. You also have a bonus action. Not all character classes have bonus actions that are available to them, but some do, and some specialize in that, whereas others don't, to try to simplify things and to move the turnaround. But did you know that there is a 4th action type in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition? There are 4 action types. The 4th action type is found on page, I got my player's handbook here, page 190 of the player's handbook. This is again the combat section. And there's a sidebar in the bottom left-hand corner in green called interacting with objects around you. As part of your turn, you get to interact with objects around you without costing you one of these other actions. Now, there's an important limit here. You have to have a free hand. So your sword and board fighters aren't going to have a free hand, but your two-handed fighters are going to have a free hand, so long as they're picking up and then putting down or stowing away what it is that they're interacting with. Because then when it comes time for the attack, their hand is now free to two-hand weapon smite. The other place is a two-weapon fighter. They also are not necessarily going to have a free hand to do this object interaction. So I'm going to actually read for you the examples, some of the examples. It's a 15-point bullet list. Some of the examples that they give that you can use with your interact with an object action. Draw or sheath a sword. Open or close a door. Withdraw a potion from your backpack. So let's pause there for a moment. So rules as written, drinking a potion is an action. Pulling that potion out of your backpack or out of your belt pouch or whatever that is, that's the object interaction action. So you pull it out and then drink it as your action. Common house rule is to downgrade the drinking of the potion down to a bonus action. And where this is important is in health potions. That's the main potion that most people are going to be drinking on their turns, is a health potion. And part of the action economy of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is, well, what am I giving up for that action? Because if you're using a health potion on a bonus action, most character classes aren't giving up much. But if you're giving it up as an action where you could be making 2 attacks or casting a spell, that's a pretty big, you have to be in pretty big crisis mode to drink that potion. However, if you make it a bonus action, then it's an easier call to make. But then on the other hand, you are downgrading, because all these things are interconnected, you're downgrading the importance of spells like Cure Wounds and Healing Word. Although Healing Word may be a bonus action, but Cure Wounds is an action. Now, Cure's more than a potion, but if everyone can take a potion on a bonus action, then your cleric doesn't need to do Cure Wounds as much, and then can instead use their action to do damage. And tactically, damage is almost always the better choice in these games, in part because your characters are so survivable. So enough about the action economy potions. That could have been its own separate video, but here we are, a little nugget buried in. Interacting with objects. Additional examples. Remove a ring from your finger. Stuff some food in your mouth. Plant a banner in the ground. Fish a few coins from your belt pouch. Drink all the ale in a flagon. Extinguish a small flame. Don a mask. Take a book. Put your ear to a door. Kick a small stone. Turn a key in a lock. These are all examples of an actions. And as players and as game masters, these are essentially free actions. Now, rules is written only one, and it can't be too big. You know, some examples, but this is where you can add a lot of flavor to your game, to your combat. And so for players, be on the lookout. Think about things in the environment that should be around you. Now, it may not be on the map right in front of you, but think about those environments and say, hey, is there a torch, a wall sconce, a torch? Are there some barrels at the top of the stairs? And then can I kick them down the stairs as part of my object interaction? I might make you make a roll for that as part of that, but these are the types of things in interacting with the environment. Is there some sort of trap? Is there some sort of triggers? There's some sort of device that you can just quickly do to do an action. In 4th edition, we had terrain powers. And terrain powers were these things that existed separate and apart from the characters, that in a room you could say, hey, if you're in this square, you can, as your action or whatever that is, activate this terrain power. And that's what this object interaction rule is sort of like, is your ability to come in and use this action in addition to add some flavor, to add some pizzazz, to make this combat from a 2-dimensional, just on a flat grid, to a 3-dimensional, to add place. And then as game masters, you need to try to add that flavor text. Try to be thinking about, as you're watching a player take their turn and they're in a certain part of the map, say, hey, well, hey, by the way, there's a desk there. You could pick up and toss a book. You know, that's no different than picking up and sheathing a sword. The other place where this comes important is if you use the optional rule of disarming, because if you disarm your opponent and they drop that sword in front of you, maybe you make a roll to see if it flies or not. You could, as part of that same action, if you have a free hand, pick up their weapon, and now your opponent is without a weapon. Conversely, if you disarm them and you don't pick it up, then they can effectively, as a free action, as their interact with objects action, the 4th action of the game, to be able to pick that back up, negating the interact with object. Going further on that example, though, I would say nothing's stopping you, if you're a sword and board fighter and you've disarmed your opponent, to use your interact with object to kick that weapon away. Might roll to see how far it actually slides, but you could kick that weapon away. So the person, your opponent, has to disengage and run over and grab it, or take an opportunity attack to be able to run over, grab it, and come back and attack you. All right, folks, that is the interact with objects action in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And with that, please hit the like and subscribe button. Please go to zorgamegeek.com to read more about your favorite role-playing games, and keep gaming.